Takeaway Chinese, where you can take some Chinese away and experience progress day by day. Takeaway Chinese, we will promise you a difference.
你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm 花容月貌的菲菲 and join me today is 玉树临风的 Steve Heatherly.
Hi, Fei Fei. Hello, viewers of our show today. Pretty exciting that we get to do a video show. I've done these with Niu Honglin before, but this is the first time we've done this together. So
in
it's
this
cool.
setting. And it's the first time for me to say viewers instead of listeners.
Well, then let me just sit back and give you your time.
But first of all, I think I want to explain a little bit about the phrase that I used to describe us before. 花容月貌 is a Chinese idiom to describe ladies and females in Chinese culture, meaning that a lady is as fair as a flower and as beautiful as the moon. So 花容月貌. And for Steve, he is 玉树临风.
I even have a pin that proves that I am that.
It's certified 玉树临风.
So it means a handsome guy. And by the way, I was told that handsome guys don't actually wear pins that say handsome guy on them. So I don't know about that. But the actual translation is a little bit different. It means something about a tree standing alone.
It's a 玉树 meaning a jade tree and 临风 meaning standing in the wind.
玉树临风.
Yes, so 玉树临风 describes a man that is as elegant as a jade tree.
That's us.
That's us. 花容月貌 and 玉树临风. But beside these little side notes, the reason that we're deciding to launch a video for this particular episode is precisely because of the topic today. It's quite visual, so it's very nice to be able to see our viewers for this particular episode. It's about intangible culture heritage, 非物质文化遗产.
There are so many different things to see in China. So we've picked out just a handful, just a few to talk about today. And one of them I'm really excited about because I witnessed it firsthand. Also, another one we're going to talk about I haven't seen yet, so I'm looking forward to learning about that too.
Yeah, so I want to start with one that you've seen, and I think is one of the most famous one in China. It's about the changing of the face, 变脸. And you've seen that before, right?
Yeah. After I moved to China, I took a trip down to Xi'an to see the Terracotta Warriors. And while I was in Xi'an, on one of the tourist streets there, they had a tea shop that did performances, mask-changing performance, along with some other stuff too. But that was the first time that I had ever seen that. And it was very, very cool because I was sitting not so far away from the stage. So to be able to witness it was an exciting cultural experience. But beyond that, I was trying to figure out, how do they do that?
It's, that there is a very fun anecdote about the secret behind face changing.
I thought nobody knew.
It's supposed to be a secret because that's precisely why this particular technique is so famous. But when it first got really famous across China in modern times, there was a rumor circulating online saying that the secret behind face changing is a national secret.
That's cool.
To the level of the national level, but in fact, it's not.
I was watching because I thought, if you've never seen it before, I mean, the masks change. The fan moves in front of the face, as you see in the video there, and then the masks change. So I was watching it and I was thinking, okay, it must be some kind of button or clicking thing that they have. When they want the mask to change, they click a button. I was watching their hands like really intently. I couldn't see anything. It's like a magic trick.
And do you know that the different colors of their masks actually represent different things?
I've heard that they represent different things, but I don't know what those different things are.
So in the most common ones, for example, the color red, meaning that character is loyal, have the courage, and is righteous. And because it is a performance that people normally see independently, but it's actually part of the Sichuan opera performances. So most of the time, you can see it within a storyline. So when you see a person with a red pin on his face or her face, it means that character is loyal. But when that face changes into black, that means that person, that character is honest, But when it changed into white, that means that character is cunning and is a hypocrite.
That's
basically.
bad news for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So it's a different character every time they changed the mask.
But that depends on different stories and different performances. But when you see, and also I think it's not only about Sichuan opera. In a lot of traditional Chinese operas, they use these kind of colors to indicate what kind of characters. Also part of the traditional Sichuan opera. I'm not sure if you've seen that when you visited Chengdu or Chongqing. It's about the spitting of fire.
I didn't see a spitting fire show.
I think I show speed. When he came to China,
okay.
He saw that. And normally, you can see them both, normally, especially in Sichuan province.
So that involves what? Some sort of liquid in the mouth that is flammable, and then they spit it out?
Yes, and then they have a small igniter, and then you can see that fire spitting out, seems like spitting out of his mouth.
So then if the mask changing is representing the changing characters and also the characteristics of that character, then why does the fire spitting go along with it in the same performance?
It's mostly to heighten that environment or that storyline within the story. For example, they sort of heighten the spirituality atmosphere, for example, or dramatize a very intense scenes within the operas. And that is when the spitting fire would be staged. But it's somehow you can still appreciate it independently because, just seeing the mask changing in front of your face and not knowing why that person is able to do that. And I think in some settings, they even allow you to touch their masks as they change that.
Oh, really?
And that is more intriguing on some level because you just can't get your head around why they're able to do that.
After the show was over in Xi'an, the one that I saw, after that was finished, the performer came back out. There were other elements to the performance. That particular performer came back out and spent some time with the kids in the crowd because, they did that. They touched the mask, and then the performer was changing the mask very quickly, and the kids were having fun with that.
It's very interactive, isn't it? And I think the reason that you were seeing a face-changing, a bianlian performance that is part of the Sichuan opera performances in Xi'an, which is thousands of kilometers away.
Well, my friend was just in Shanghai, and he's from America, and he had friends visiting from Chicago, and they were all going to a Sichuan opera performance in Shanghai.
And that is also one of the elements that a lot of the intangible cultural heritage in China, a lot of the 非物质文化遗产, are helping sort of spreading the popularity of local tourism, even though, for example, in the case of bianlian, is not locally from Xi'an or Shanghai, but still help to boost that popularity and tourism element.
I think that applies to domestic tourism too, because one of the cool things about the performance that I saw, well, the first thing that happened in that, a comedian came out onto the stage to welcome everybody and was asking, which part of the country are you from? The majority of the crowd was Chinese for that particular performance. I think I was the only non-Chinese person there. And I ended up on stage, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, they called me on stage to ask me where I was from and things like that. But the comedian was saying like, oh, where are you from? And, some people would mention from the northern part of the country. And then the comedian would try to replicate their accent. And then, people from all over China were there. So I think that's kind of one of the cool things is that you can travel within China and still feel like you still are getting a different cultural experience than you would in another part of the country.
Yeah, and speaking of this very interactive, and I think getting to know a different culture even within the same country, and I think I have to mention that not far away from Beijing, in the province of Hebei, we have a very famous city. It's called Wuqiao. Have you heard about this city before?
Is this where the acrobats?
Yeah, it's basically the capital of acrobats internationally. And in Chinese, it's called 杂技. It's also normally will be demonstrated as part of the Spring Gala performances and things like standing alone on a pole or dancing around. It's basically also very similar to a circus.
Yeah, there's the, I don't know, do you call that the trapeze? The one where the swing goes out and one person is like hanging upside down on the swing and then they throw another person into the air.
Basically, yeah.
And then they get caught on the other side or they catch the other swing on the other side. It's amazing. I saw parts of that during the gala, but I've never seen it in person. Have you seen it live?
No, but I've sort of interviewed some of the students that are being trained.
Oh, cool.
In Wuqiao before, because Wuqiao actually has thousands of years of history of acrobatics dating back to almost more than 2,000 years ago.
Wow.
And this is one of the reasons it's dubbed as the cradle of Chinese acrobatics. And also a lot of international visitors would go to Wuqiao to learn about different tricks because surprisingly, maybe this is information that is not well known among many people, that Chinese acrobatics is actually very, very famous and prestigious internationally. And I think for Wuqiao in particular, they have international acrobatic festival that is basically one of the 3 most prestigious such festivals in the world. And they attract tens of thousands of visitors for every installment of this festival. And you can appreciate a lot of such performances. And I think a lot of visitors would definitely be interested to see, even for families, to see a very fun circus.
Oh, no.
Have you been to a circus performance before?
I've seen, so from Canada, there's a performance called Cirque du Soleil that was created many years ago, and it's basically an acrobatic performance. They have a lot of elements that maybe are shared with the Chinese performances as well. Who knows? Maybe the Chinese performances inspired Cirque du Soleil. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But yeah, the performers themselves. Did you interview those people in person, by the way?
Yeah. I talked to some of the kids.
They are, well, I'm not sure about your experience, but I met an acrobat on a beach once. And this guy was really friendly, really nice. He was actually a Cirque du Soleil performer. And I thought it was impossible to have 0% body fat before. But I think these performers are in tremendous shape. That's one of the things that struck me. And I don't know why I was surprised by that, but yeah, just incredible physical condition. You'd have to be in great condition because it would be so, yeah.
You would be thrown in air to another person. You definitely need to be quite fit.
What types of things did you ask them about when you were talking?
Like, why did they decide to come? I mean, learning and training to be part of the acrobatics about Zaji is very challenging. You definitely will encounter a lot of injuries. And you will fall onto the mat when you first learn these tricks. And some of them give me reasons why they decide to do that. Most of them are really out of pure interest of challenging the extremes of themselves and to see. And then when you enter that background, you just want to try to achieve more, to achieve better. And that is what really amazes me, I think, around the world when we have performers trying to replicate a lot of very difficult and dangerous tricks.
Historically speaking, Wuqiao acrobatics.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, would they have been entertainers for the emperors, or where would their place in society have been?
Well, I think it's part of on the streets before. Of course, they will be staged to an emperor, to a loyal family, but in a lot of cases also on the streets, like in a local market, in a fair festival, that these mostly in a small family size group. So that's why a lot of the tricks is passed down from fathers to sons.
Like a family business?
Almost. But I would say that this kind of education in the past is mostly carried in within a family, and at least from a very similar parental father to son or father to daughter or mother to daughter kind of relationship. So not only would that supervisor, let's say the master, teach the students about the tricks, about the techniques, sometimes they'll also take care of them, taking them on tours around the country, fed them when they were children. So it's a very close relationship.
And the performances can start from a very young age, right? From when they're kids.
I think you have to.
That's a good point.
If you need to learn a lot of the tricks, a lot of the balances, surprisingly, kids can do a lot better than adults.
So the performances, like we talked about the Sichuan opera, you can find those performances in many parts of the country, shared culture within the country like we were talking about. These acrobatic performances, can you easily find those? I'm guessing maybe not, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that it's easier for performers to replicate an opera than it is to replicate acrobatics. So you wouldn't have as many troops available.
That's true. That's one of the reasons why acrobatics on some level face threats when it comes to popularity, when it comes to be carried out by the next generation. One element is, of course, it's very dangerous and very challenging, and you need to be very devoted into these kind of techniques. Another one, I think, is because the general public just don't have a chance to take part. So without that element, you just naturally lose interest when you have hundreds of other choices on the market. So that's why I think in this year, the Wuqiao actually launched a festival that's almost like a theme park.
So what's special about the festival? A theme park in what sense?
It's called Wuqiao Acrobatics Fantasy Park. It's a very immersive cultural theme park in the Wuqiao County. And unlike a traditional circus theater, we will simply sit and watch a performance. That's also normally what an acrobatics performance would be like. You can actually step into the acrobatic world through, for example, technology, through interactive shows.
VR headsets?
Yes, and other, when it comes to wuxia stories, you can become a xia in this theme park and flying on top of different roofs of houses and, sort of incorporate that acrobatics element in these experiences. So interaction is so much important when it comes to carry on this intangible cultural heritage and make them accessible and friendlier to the general audience.
I think that's a great idea because it puts the performers right in front of the audience and it makes things more accessible, makes them a little bit more real, perhaps. When we see these acrobatics, or at least this is how I feel about it. When I saw that acrobatic performance on the Spring Gala Festival, it doesn't even seem real in some sense because it's so incredibly well done.
Under one of the videos, I saw one comment saying it must be AI'd.
Yeah.
It must be AI'd.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's difficult perhaps to create that connection with the audience. So having a theme park like this, the Wuqiao Acrobatics Fantasy Park, is a good idea. It gets people right in front of the performers.
Yeah, and speaking about interaction, and I think another very prominent example comes from the city of Nanjing. Have you been to that city before?
I have not.
It's a very nice city. It has a lot of history. They call them the ancient city of 6 different dynasties, which is true. And in particular, they have this Qinhuai Lantern Festival.
Lantern Festival.
Yeah, Qinhuai Denghui. Because Qinhuai meaning referring to that area around the city of Nanjing. And then Lantern Festival, for a lot of Chinese places, cities, regions, counties, and towns, we normally have a Lantern Festival around the Spring Festival. But what's different from this Qinhuai Lantern Festival is that they're going overseas. They're going to France. They actually attracted thousands of visitors in France.
How do you bring a lantern festival overseas?
That is their, I think, innovation for this kind of intangible cultural heritage and expanding its popularity, is that instead of shipping individual lanterns to France, which can be very troublesome, can be very expensive.
Well, if they're paper lanterns, they could be broken so easily.
Yeah.
You're talking about the huge lanterns.
Yes, of course. If you want to put them on a display,
yes.
It needs to be huge and needs to come on a scale and can be very expensive shipping them from Nanjing to France.
I'm guessing that you would ship the components to France and then construct the lanterns once the components have arrived?
But when it comes to a traditional lantern, like what the Qinhuai Lantern Festival is offering, some of the materials cannot be found in France. Like they use a lot of bamboos in making of these lanterns. So how do they deal with that? So they ship parts of the materials to France, and then part of the materials are found locally in France. And also when it comes to the craftsmen themselves, also parts of them comes from China, parts of them comes from France.
Oh, really?
So they're also teaching the local people about this lantern making, sort of also expanding the popularity of this lantern making.
Yeah. If you've not seen any videos of the festivals that they have here in China for the Lantern Festival, please do take a minute and get on the internet and try to find some to watch. They're extremely popular with tourists when they come here, and I definitely want to get there someday. It's like when I watched the videos, I felt like it must feel like stepping into a dream somehow.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of soft pastel colors. It's very dreamlike. A lot of, the giant fish or whatever characters they make look like something you might see while you're asleep. Really stunning. It's really beautiful. That's not an overstatement.
Yeah, and I think also when it comes on scale, when you have thousands of lanterns in front of you, showcasing in front of you at night, it just seems like a fairyland. Yeah, it's the time to see them for sure. And when it comes to this Qinhuai Lantern Festival, what they are doing also very differently in France is that in a single edition in that country, selling nearly 200,000 tickets, attracting at nearly 200,000 visitors, meaning that even for the general public in France have zero background knowledge about the Chinese culture, they're able to enjoy this Lantern Festival.
And that's the cool thing is that, yeah, sure, a lot of people who don't live in China or aren't from China might not have any actual cultural knowledge of the country. But these are the types of performances and shows, particularly the Lantern Festival too. You don't need to have any special knowledge of the culture. But the great thing that these types of shows or these types of lanterns can represent, or the way that they can function, is to open a door, I think. So people might not have any curiosity about China before, maybe no knowledge about China before, but they see a lantern show like this and they think, wow, I want to know more. Or they see the opera performance and think, oh, that's cool. What's that all about? How do they change those masks? I think this could be one of the great reasons for it is, you're attracting interest.
But I still have this question, Steve, is when we're talking about this intangible cultural heritage, a lot of them have hundreds or even thousands of years of history and has a profound background, a lot of history, a lot of stories involving a lot of craftsmanship. But when they are getting popularized, for example, in a lot of Chinese places, they're incorporating intangible cultural heritage elements with tourism, with the tourism industry. So they need to compromise. They need to compromise some elements of their heritage. For example, let's say the face-changing techniques in the Sichuan opera is supposed to be within a storyline. It's supposed to be helped with the climax of that story to tell a bigger story. But somehow it's been picked outside of that opera setting and put in a restaurant on the street. And people are just, wow, having that wow factor and then leave. So some people would argue this is compromising the traditions. Do you think that really, really matter? Which one is more important? Having more people getting to know it, experiencing it, they think it's very cool, but they didn't really carry on afterwards, digging all the history and background behind. Just enjoy that one show. Does it really matter? I
don't think so. But I've had this same conversation in Canada about Shakespeare. In 1996 or 7, something like that, they made this modern Shakespeare movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, watch that one.
And a lot of purists.
Controversies.
A lot of purists were saying, how could you do this to Shakespeare? You have kind of, it's almost blasphemy to take this beautiful story from hundreds of years ago and turn it into some modern cheesy type thing. But my argument at the time, I remember having this conversation with my professors. If it makes something accessible to a group of people who wouldn't otherwise know about it or search it or look it up or whatever, then what's the problem with that? And I feel the same way about this. I understand why purists might think, well, you've got this piece of Chinese tradition and culture that should be cherished and should be preserved. But if you can remove an element of a performance and take the one of the cool aspects of the performance, the face changing, and put it out in the streets, for example, for people to see and have fun with it, then I don't think anything is lost there, because you still have something that is this ancient Chinese performance that has so much rich history to it, but it's still making people happy and still making people enjoy it today. I think that's the point.
And I do think for a lot of people out there, they do need to make this balancing act between preserving the traditions, the core of the traditions, and popularization, and also even marketing of a lot of intangible cultural heritage.
Especially the acrobats need to, the balancing act.
平衡. Balancing is very important, not only in acrobatics, but also in marketing. And that brings us to the end of today's Takeaway Chinese. I'm Fei Fei, and with Steve Hatherley in the studio. Remember, you can always find us on your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, and so much more. Just search for Takeaway Chinese. Leave your comment. Tell us what you think about today's theme. What do you think about intangible cultural heritage? And I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.